It's Thursday, the 26th of February 2026, and welcome to the Water Action Platform. Today is the last time that we will be doing the Water Action Platform as a monthly broadcast. We started them in March 2020, almost 6 years ago, and my, has it been a wonderful journey. We've done 85 broadcasts, told over 400 stories, interviewed over 250 people. We've been to every continent and covered pretty much every aspect of the water cycle. The Water Action Platform has won awards for what it's done to bring the water sector together, and I thank both my colleagues in Isle and the team at Andeye who have delivered the editing and made these broadcasts look slick and professional. In particular, I thank our sponsors listed here, without whom these broadcasts would not have been possible. Now, we will, of course, be continuing. You cannot keep a good thing down. It just won't be in the current format of a monthly broadcast. We will continue to tell stories. You will see the Water Action Platform appear on your LinkedIn and other social media feeds. So, if you have an interesting water-related story to tell, please let us know. Now, our first story today takes you to the recent World Economic Forum in Davos. Global news channels were swamped with stories about Trump and Greenland and Zelensky's frustrated speech about Europe. But there was, however, also an exciting water story, which we felt needed some extra airtime. Now, at Davos, 10 startups were announced as the winners of the Water Resilience Challenge. Now, this challenge was designed to do something very specific: scale real solutions that strengthen water resilience. The 10 winning ventures will each receive an equal share of 1.75 million Swiss francs, which is about $2 million US. It's been generously funded by HCL Group and supported by 12 partners who are committed to turning innovation into deployment, not just pilots and press releases and reports that few people read. Now, why does this matter? Well, water systems today are under intense pressure. In the last decade alone, 9 out of 10 natural disasters were water-related. Groundwater is being depleted at faster rates than it can recharge in major economies, and at the same time, demand is rising sharply. By 2027, just next year, data centers alone are projected to consume over 660 billion litres of water every year. That's roughly the annual demand of a city of 1 million people. So, water resilience isn't just about protecting ecosystems. It's about economic stability. It's about food security. It's about energy security. And it's about public health. And that's the lens that this challenge takes. Now, the winning solutions focus on 3 critical areas: strengthening the infrastructure resilience, rethinking water use in agri-food systems, and optimizing water use in tech and energy. What ties the 10 winners together is not just innovation, it's systems thinking. These ventures are tackling water resilience as a connected challenge, not a series of isolated fixes. So let's hear from the innovators themselves, and one of these companies, iFlux, was listed and showcased in a Water Action Platform broadcast last year, and 4 of the others have been part of the Isle TAG programs. In our next story, we continue the theme of celebrating interesting technologies by looking at pyrolysis. Now, last month, we showcased a technology solution from Organics Group which looked at ammonia recovery. And note, I say recovery, not removal. It was about generating an ammonia-rich fertilizer product. Well, this month, we're staying with Organics to hear about their pyrolysis technology. And here again is Rob Eden, and I open by asking him to explain what pyrolysis is.
Robert, now we saw you a couple of months ago where you kindly shared what you've been doing around ammonia recovery, especially using waste heat to create this turquoise ammonia, which was fascinating. Today we're going to talk about a different thing. We're going to talk about pyrolysis. Now, what is pyrolysis?
So pyrolysis is the thermal conversion of organic materials into carbon char and ash in the absence of air. So it's not burning. It's I sometimes say it's like melting, but without the liquid.
Excellent. And the biochar that's generated is a valuable product.
Yes, the biochar can be a valuable product. In order to earn carbon credits, it needs to be a waste material. So you can't grow a crop and convert it to biochar. You have to use waste materials, such as sludge from an anaerobic digester or from a sewage treatment works. That's a perfect feedstock.
Yeah, and I assume it solves some other problems around microplastics and PFAS and things like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. All right. So what's special? I mean, pyrolysis is something that people have been using for many years. What is it that's special about what you do at Organics?
Well, we've been working on pyrolysis for about 20 years in actual fact, and we've developed a technology which is economic and efficient. So you can meet the price point required to be viable. And we also include a drying technology which again uses heat recycling to minimize the heat load. So because obviously sludges are very wet, and that's a big problem for pyrolysis. You have to dry it, but we include a method of drying which enhances the overall process.
It's funny, isn't it, how the innovations you've created at Organics in pyrolysis and also in the turquoise ammonia sort of hinge off doing clever things with heat recovery, just because that's what suddenly changes the economics from being abhorrently expensive to attractively attractive.
Yeah. Well, when we started out, heat was wasted, and even landfill gas was wasted, and biogas was wasted. All these things were wasted, and now suddenly they're all valuable resources. So we've had to become more efficient and more effective in using heat to minimize the use of the resource.
All right, well, I get it. Okay, so you've got the gasification / pyrolysis process. It generates the biochar. Let's talk about what happens to the biochar. What can one usefully use it for?
Well, there's no limit to human imagination. So the standard is fertilizer, but carbon credits can be earned from adding biochar to asphalt, to concrete, to various cement blocks, anywhere where it's locked away, so it's not consumed. You can't, for example, you can't burn the biochar and use it as a coal. But anything where you lock it away, that has value.
And because of that, does that mean it creates negative emission targets if you're locking it away, if you're sequestering?
Yes, absolutely. So 1 ton of biochar can produce about 3.5 tons of carbon sequestration. And each ton of carbon sequestration is worth between $100 to $150. So 1 ton of biochar has the potential to earn $450, $500 through the sale of carbon credits, as long as it's sequestered.
Okay, so let's put that into the context of a typical sewage treatment plant. 200,000 per population sewage treatment plant. That would produce roughly 50,000 tons of dewatered sludge every year, which I think, if you've given me those numbers right, that would be about 4,000 tons of biochar. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And each ton of biochar has about 50% carbon. So the carbon content of the biochar is what gives you the carbon sequestration credits.
So I have my 4,000 tons of biochar, 6,000 tons of CO2 being locked up, and then a fertilizer. Do we have any idea of how much fertilizer value might come from a works of that size? What the commercial value of that might be in pounds?
Well, again, that varies, but the total value is going to be about 2 million pounds a year from a 200,000 PE sewage treatment works.
Okay. And how much will that typically cost? Are we talking 50 million or 10 million or 2 million?
Well, no, again, it depends on the specifics of the situation, but the ballpark figure is about 5 million.
£5 million sterling. Felt a lot lower cost than I was expecting. You agree? Thank you, Rob. Great to have that information shared, and we wish you the best. With the increased attention on things like PFAS in biosolids, I'm absolutely certain that you'll get more interest over the coming year. Staying with a technology showcase theme, we're now going to talk about NOV and the things that they're doing to disrupt and innovate in the water sector, in particular with fiberglass and thermoplastics. Here is the Global Vice President for Water, Randy Cable, sharing some more.
Randy, wonderful to connect with you today. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Pierce. Glad to be here.
Now, I've known you for many years, and you've been in various different roles, but for the last few years, you've been working at NOV. So let's start with, who are NOV? What do you do?
Well, NOV is National Oilwell Varco, and I work within their fiberglass systems division, and I'm their global vice president for water, environmental, and flow solutions.
Okay, so NOV does stuff in fiberglass and thermoplastics. Thermoplastics, a bit we're going to be talking about today, I think, and in particular across multiple sectors. But you're Mr. Utilities, Mr. Water Global, aren't you?
I am. I've been fortunate to lead our water, environmental, flow solutions group. For our thermoplastics, Piers, they're headquartered in Plymouth, the UK, and so it's a very unique operation. But that's where we sit.
Excellent. Now, okay, so for people who aren't familiar, what is a thermoplastic?
Thermoplastics basically can be made of many different materials, but it's something that is easily formable. It's customized with regards to shape and form and structures, and it's the only facility within our portfolio that sits and do these products that are in the UK.
Okay, all right. Again, I want to make sure, because in the water sector, in the utility sector generally, we're used to concrete, we're used to cast iron, and we're getting more familiar with plastic material and the benefits of them. But essentially what NOV does is you can make all sorts of things. We're going to talk about a few of them out of thermoplastics. And it's the benefits of thermoplastics over some of these conventional materials that I'd like to just pick at for a bit.
Sure. Well, the first and foremost is the corrosion resistant aspect of it. And the customization that can be done with regards to whatever applications, and from CSO chambers, manholes, pipe, it's endless really with regards to the applications. But the corrosion resistant aspect of it is one of the most formidable, if you would, benefits of thermoplastics.
Yeah, so you've got corrosion resistant, you've got manufactured off-site and being able to brought in, which cuts down street works time, it cuts down health and safety issues. It just makes life so much easier to be able to design and construct off-site and bring to site and sort of slot into a hole in the ground if it's a CSO chamber, for example.
Absolutely. The off-site build is something that we do. We provide 3D modeling from a design aspect, but then it's completely, captured in rebar. It's formed, and literally, when you bring it to site, it's a plug and play. You put it into the opening, cuts down on traffic conditions, things of that nature. It's really, it ticks all the boxes with regards to the benefits of doing the off-site build. And we find that it's really something that the utilities are interested in with regards to the ease of the installation. Certainly the contractors are.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk about a specific example. And you shared with me a couple of examples. There was one with Yorkshire Water, a CSO, Cricketers Crescent, I think it was called, Cricketers Inn Crescent. Just walk me through some of the features of that particular installation.
Well, that was an off-site build. It was on a busy street, so we wanted to minimize the opening and the traffic impact. We worked closely with the contractor Galliford Try, and it was a replacement of a brick-built unscreened chamber. So there were a number of other suppliers that were involved in the project as well. And really a success story because they were able to reduce their sewage bills by 75%. They amortized that in again over a 20-year period, and the numbers just astronomical in terms of what they were able to achieve. But that was one of the primary ones that just recently has happened.
Yeah, I used to be the asset director for Thames Water, and schemes like this that look so neat, a project that's run like clockwork, and at the end, it's a working, smooth running facility is music to the ears of any asset director or operator listening to this right now. Now, CSOs is the thing that we often talk about for off-site built solutions. Dig a hole in the ground, slot the CSO in, and it's running. And that example from Yorkshire Water is great. There are some other applications which you've been doing. So you mentioned before we got on this call something around manholes, intelligent manholes. You actually used the phrase, "It's difficult to make a manhole sexy, but I think we've done it." Share more.
Well, with manholes, you're, the typical material construction is concrete, and we've been able to do some really unique things just recently, where you've got a typical manhole, but your fluid controls on the bottom. But then we've also been able to put flanges on this so that there's cabling. It could be telecommunications or even electrical that's able to go through the manhole as well. And got a couple unique applications. That these are now being utilized or being considered for, and I kind of just thought that's a little bit something that's outside the norm from a manhole that you see every day. That you drive over. That's there, but what's below the surface is kind of unique. And from a customization standpoint, these are going to be used in a football stadium. So there's quite a few of these. But again, the benefit is that they're going to be able to provide cabling through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing the telecommunications through the manhole cover, which you can do, of course, with more traditional ones, but it's very expensive. And actually, can these manhole covers, these thermoplastic manhole covers, go on roads? Are they strong enough to have heavy lorries going over the top of them? Or
Sure. In the U.S., we call it an H20 traffic loading, but the same is similar to the U.K. So yes, they're able to go within the surface streets.
Excellent. All right. So we've done how to make a manhole sexy. I think you've even also made a sludge pipe sexy as well, haven't you? So tell us about how you made a sludge pipe sexy.
Well, we took our KempSafe dual contain pipe. And this particular application was very unique in that they had to transfer sludge from one facility to another, and it had to go over a river. And so they chose our ChemSafe pipe because of the dual contained aspect of it. And
just explain what dual contained is. One pipe inside another.
That's correct. And simplifying, it's one pipe within another. And so the sludge itself is being transferred over a river using our dual contained pipe. And so that there's zero chance for spillage into the river itself. But for me, it's a fairly unique application. Typically, these pipes are used in pharmaceutical or some type of a biohazard application where containment is paramount with regards to the application. And so, but the utility lens that I look through, and everything, I'm all things about utilities, is I found that to be a fairly unique offering to handle sludge.
Yeah, I mean, the CSOs, there's going to be thousands, tens of thousands of applications where CSO chambers, prefabricated CSO chambers, or off-site fabricated CSO chambers could be needed. For the dual contained, or the dual contained, is that the right phrase? Yes, dual contained pipe. That is a specialist application, but when you need it, man, you need it. If you're going under a railway line or over a river or something like that, where you just can't afford to have failure, and that might be for sludge, or it might be for other fluids that need to be transported over in critical areas. All right, you've made manholes sexy, you've made sludge pipes sexy. I think maybe you haven't made odor control sexy, but it's a good example of showing just the variety, the wide variety of things that can be done with thermoplastics. So let's finish with just talking about the odor control facilities that you've been dealing with.
It's something that's recently become of interest, and we've had a number of inquiries where we've actually put these, we've designed it and then supplied these odor control covers. So if you've got an area that where you've got odors that are leaking out that you need to control, we've actually just manufactured a cover that actually fits over the opening itself that can be vented and then controlled from that aspect.
Brilliant. Well, the reason we're doing this interview today is because you've been doing this for many years in North America. You're now expanding out, and you're present outside of North America, but now you've got a bigger drive, a bigger push to expanding these services to the wider market, in particular in Europe. And Randy, I really appreciate the time you've taken today to give us that insight, and I wish you the absolute best in your endeavors.
Thank you, Piers. I appreciate that as well.
Now, as mentioned, NOV are very well established in the US, and they're looking to bring their technology into other areas. If you're interested in knowing more, please let me know and I'll do an introduction. And finally, we have a story that is very close to my heart. Anyone who knows me will be aware that my wife and I run a private nature reserve here in the UK. We have bees. If you ever visit our site, you will leave with some honey. And with climate change, I worry about my bees all the time. Today's and finally gives me some hope, because scientists have revealed that the queens of the common eastern bumblebee, a species widespread in eastern North America, can withstand submersion for up to a week when hibernating. Now, why is this important? Well, bumblebee queens burrow into the soil to hibernate. Now, if they can survive underwater, they should be able to survive floods. Now, the bit I particularly love about this story is that the scientists, Sabrina Rondeau and Nigel Raine, made this discovery when a mishap in the laboratory led to water getting into one of the containers in which the hibernating queen bees were kept. Curiosity, like good scientists they are, led them to investigate further. They took 143 unmated hibernating queens and placed each one in its own plastic tube containing damp topsoil. The tubes were then fitted with perforated lids and kept in the dark, refrigerated unit for a week. After checking that the bees were still alive, the researchers kept 17 tubes of controls and added cold water to the remaining 126. Now, while the queen was allowed to float on top of the water in half of those tubes, she was pushed under the water by a plunger in the others. And for both conditions, a third of the tubes were left for 8 hours, a third for 24 hours, and a third for 7 days. It's a wonderful sort of project to stimulate different flooding conditions. The team subsequently transferred the bees to new tubes and monitored their survival. The important bit is, of course, the results. And the results showed that the survival rates were similar, regardless of the duration and condition that the bees had been subjected to. Indeed, 88% of the controls and 81% of the queens that were submerged for a week were still alive and well 8 weeks later. Bee enthusiasts have long speculated that increased winter rain amid the climate crisis could drown many queen bumblebees as they hibernate underground. Now, amazingly, this research shows that hibernating queen bumblebees are entirely unaffected by being held underwater for up to a week. This seems to be one small aspect of climate change that maybe, just maybe, we don't need to worry about. With that, we come to the end of this month's broadcast, and thanks again go to all our sponsors. I look forward to seeing you soon on the LinkedIn or other social media channels where you will find the Water Action Platform stories continuing to be told. Until then, keep asking questions, keep sharing, and keep safe.